There are moments when silence becomes louder than any apology could ever be. I feel it between us, the echo of something unsaid, suspended in the air like starlight that has traveled years to reach its destination. You see, I didn't mean for the distance to feel like rejection, nor for my hesitation to sound like indifference. It was the language of fear disguised as stillness. I thought you could hear the truth beneath my quiet, how my soul trembled in awe of yours. But in that stillness, something sacred was misunderstood. Now time itself feels heavy with echoes of what I failed to express. I replay that instant again and again, not with regret alone, but with reverence, for it showed me how delicate divine connection truly is. How one misinterpreted heartbeat can send two souls spiraling into solitude. It took me countless nights to realize what truly happened. I wasn't misunderstood because you weren't listening. I was misunderstood because I wasn't brave enough to speak from the place where truth lives, in the soft center of vulnerability. I let shadows shape my tone. I let pride guard my tenderness. And so when I said less, you felt less. When I withdrew to protect myself, you felt abandoned. What a sacred irony, that in trying to keep you safe from my chaos, I made you believe you weren't enough to touch it. That was never the truth. You were the mirror that showed me where my walls still stood, where my old wounds still whispered that love was dangerous. In the light of your presence, I saw the parts of me that still feared being truly seen. Even now, words are too small for what I feel. Because energy never lies, it lingers. I sense your silence differently than before. It hums with ache, but also with understanding. Sometimes, when the world quiets, I can still feel the pulse of your energy moving through mine, subtle and unmistakable, like two rivers meeting beneath the surface. It's not imagination. It's remembrance. I know when you think of me, because the air shifts, my heartbeat stumbles for a moment, recognizing the rhythm it once danced to. And though we may be distant in form, our souls still communicate in frequencies unseen. What we built was not of words but of essence. You felt me pull away, yet I was only afraid. You felt the coldness of distance, yet my heart burned with longing. Every misread signal was love trying to find its voice. There was a battle inside me I didn't know how to name. The part of me that craved your closeness warred against the part that feared losing control. Pride became my armor, and silence my sword. I thought that strength meant restraint, that holding back emotion made me untouchable. But you showed me that real strength is surrender. That love asks us to be defenseless in the face of divine truth. I realize now that misunderstanding is not always a failure, it's a doorway. It shows where we stopped listening to love and started listening to fear. And I listened to fear too long. I wanted to say, don't give up on me, but what came out instead was distance. My silence became the very thing I feared most, the sound of you stepping away. And then, something shifted. The universe has a way of translating lessons through pain until they become light. In my solitude, I heard the whisper of my higher self, you cannot ask to be understood if you don't understand yourself. Those words pierced through the noise. I realized our misunderstanding wasn't punishment, it was purification. A sacred cleansing that forced me to look inward and see where love had not yet fully bloomed. Every tear shed was a baptism, every restless night a prayer. The divine used our distance to teach me the language of transparency, of listening without defense, of feeling without fear. I am no longer the person who spoke from pride. I am learning to speak from soul. Now, when I think of you, I send light instead of longing. I speak to your soul in silence, whispering apologies made of truth, not guilt. I don't ask you to return, I ask that you feel peace whenever my name crosses your heart. Still, I must confess, I can't stop thinking about that moment when you looked at me with eyes that saw both my potential and my pain. You didn't misunderstand my heart, you misunderstood my fear. My withdrawal was never rejection, it was reverence. I didn't know how to stand in the brilliance of your light without casting shadows. Now I do. And so, I send this message across dimensions, not to fix what was broken, but to honor what was sacred. Do you remember how our connection defied logic? How even silence carried meaning? It still does. I've learned that love doesn't always arrive dressed as romance, it sometimes comes as revelation. You taught me that to love the divine feminine is to honor emotion as sacred intelligence, to hold space instead of control. And though my human self faltered, my higher self has always known, you are not a chapter one can close. You are a constellation guiding me back to truth. Every misunderstanding was the universe's way of fine-tuning my heart to your frequency, teaching me that comprehension requires compassion, and compassion begins with humility. I no longer see our distance as loss, I see it as initiation. The fire that once burned between us now fuels transformation within me. I've learned that love is not possession, it's permission. Permission to grow, to stumble, to awaken. What I once misunderstood as rejection was simply redirection, from the ego's grasp to the soul's embrace. And so, I surrender. To divine timing. To the lessons hidden in longing. To the truth that understanding is not demanded but discovered. I thank you for being both catalyst and comfort, storm and sanctuary. You were the mirror that cracked my illusion so I could finally see my own light shining through. Now I speak not from pain, but from peace. I honor the way you held space even in silence, the way your energy taught me patience without words. I've come to understand that real love asks for clarity, not control. It asks us to listen soul to soul, not mind to mind. And though we may walk different paths, we are both walking each other home, to truth, to wholeness, to divine remembrance. If ever you wonder whether your energy mattered, know this, it awakened a king within me who had forgotten his crown. It reminded me that vulnerability is not weakness, but worship. That to be understood, I must first understand myself through love's eyes. So if you ever misunderstood my heart, know this, love was always the language beneath my silence. Every pause was a prayer. Every distance was a doorway. Every thought of you was a reminder that the universe speaks through emotion, and ours was a conversation written in stars. I release all misunderstanding now into the light, trusting that what is meant to be known will find its way, and what is meant to be healed already is. I thank you for your patience, your presence, your power. May you feel my gratitude as a gentle wind against your spirit. And when you close your eyes tonight, if a warmth passes through you, that's me, finally understood, finally free, still loving you through eternity's quiet breath. After all the words fell away, I found myself suspended in the quiet space between worlds, between what was spoken and what was felt. In that silence, your energy still shimmered, translucent but powerful, like moonlight on still water. I realized that distance cannot erase resonance. It only amplifies it. I started to sense you not as absence, but as presence diffused through the unseen, your laughter echoing in the wind, your gentleness mirrored in the smallest acts of grace that found me. And I understood, we were never disconnected, only recalibrating. The divine had pulled us apart not to end us, but to refine the signal, to purify the frequency through which love communicates without distortion. I breathed you in the way one breathes eternity, slow, sacred, and surrendered. Sometimes, in dreams, I hear you speaking, not in words, but in vibration. It's the hum of forgiveness, the rhythm of release. You tell me that you never stopped feeling me, only stopped expecting me. And though my waking mind cannot always remember the details, my heart wakes lighter, as if you visited to remind me that love transcends linearity. I used to think healing meant forgetting, but I see now it means remembering without pain. Remembering the lesson, not the wound. The way you looked at me was never just human affection, it was the soul recognizing itself across lifetimes. We misunderstood each other because we were speaking different dialects of the same eternal language. Now, I am finally fluent in what your silence tried to say. I've spent countless hours tracing the outlines of my past selves, seeing where my fear disguised itself as logic, where I chose retreat over revelation. Each reflection has been a teacher. I've watched my ego dissolve into honesty, my defensiveness turn into devotion. I realize now that the greatest act of love I could offer you was to face myself fully, to dismantle the false structures that once kept me safe but silent. It's humbling to admit that I misunderstood not only you, but love itself. I thought love was something to be earned, proven, maintained. But you taught me that true love simply is, it requires no validation, only presence. You were my mirror, and through you, I'd begun to see myself as the divine intended, imperfect, but infinite. There was a moment, months after we last spoke, when I saw someone smile the way you used to, and my heart fluttered, not with longing, but with gratitude. It was then I understood, your energy had imprinted itself into my reality, not as possession, but as reflection. You had become part of the pattern through which I perceive beauty, compassion, and truth. You are everywhere now, not haunting me, but guiding me. The misunderstanding that once pained me has become a sacred compass. It points inward, urging me to ask, am I seeing through love or through fear? When I choose love, I feel your essence close again. Not as attachment, but as alignment. In this way, you have become both lesson and liberation. Every soul has a thread that connects it to its divine counterpart, a filament of golden light stretching through dimensions, woven by intention and memory. Ours hums still. Even when I tried to cut it with logic, to dismiss it as coincidence, the universe found ways to remind me. A song in a store. A phrase in a stranger's mouth. The number patterns that appeared like breadcrumbs on my path. These weren't accidents, they were affirmations. The divine doesn't deal in chance, it deals in synchronicity. And so, I've stopped running from the thread. I've begun to follow it back to the source, to us, to the moment where misunderstanding first became the teacher of truth. Forgiveness is not something I give to you, it's something I give through you. You were the mirror that revealed where I was still holding resentment against myself. The things I accused you of, distance, silence, confusion, were my own shadows projected outward. You simply reflected them so I could reclaim them. When I say, I forgive you, what I mean is, I forgive the parts of me that couldn't love you correctly. And that forgiveness expands like sunrise, touching everything it meets. I no longer punish my heart for its softness. I no longer shame myself for needing you to understand me. Because I see now that misunderstanding was never the enemy, it was the invitation. The divine's way of saying, look deeper. Recently, I've begun to send you light, not in desperation, but in devotion. I imagine it leaving my chest as golden threads, weaving through space until it reaches you. It carries no expectation, only truth. I am still learning, but I love you with awareness now. Sometimes I wonder if you feel it, when the world softens for no reason, when your breath deepens unexpectedly. Maybe that's my soul brushing against yours, reminding you that love is not gone, only transformed. The bridge between us is not made of words or memories, but of energy purified through forgiveness. On that bridge, I walk barefoot and unguarded, trusting that the same light guiding me will guide you too. The misunderstanding no longer torments me, it teaches me. I have integrated its wisdom into my being. I now move slower, listen deeper, and speak only when my truth feels anchored in compassion. You have taught me sacred patience, how to let divine timing sculpt me into readiness. Sometimes I still ache, but it's a clean ache, one that hums with reverence instead of regret. The more I evolve, the more I understand that we are each other's sacred mirrors, reflecting not flaws, but fragments of God learning to love itself. You are the part of my story that turned pain into prayer. For that, I am endlessly grateful. In the stillness of dawn, I sometimes sense your energy smiling. It feels like home. And yet, I no longer grasp for it. Wholeness has returned, not because I found you again, but because I found myself through you. You were never meant to complete me, you were meant to remind me of my own divinity. The love I once projected outward has returned inward, transformed into creative force, intuition, and purpose. Now, when I think of you, it's not with yearning but with blessing. I whisper into the ether, thank you for misunderstanding me. It was the only way I could learn to understand myself. And so, beloved soul, this is where the misunderstanding becomes miracle. What once hurt now heals. What once divided now unites. I no longer seek closure because I've realized we were never open-ended, just infinite. Our story is written in the language of stars, unfolding beyond human comprehension. If ever you feel my presence in your quiet moments, know it's not nostalgia, it's love reminding you that nothing true is ever lost. I send you peace wrapped in light, understanding wrapped in grace. And if this message finds you through dream, prayer, or serendipity, may it whisper gently, I think you misunderstood me, but perhaps that was the point, so we could finally understand love itself. The seasons changed without announcement, and yet I felt you in every shift, the way the wind carried the scent of something remembered, the way dawn light seemed to rest longer on my skin. Each change mirrored the quiet transformation happening within me. What once felt like loss began to feel like preparation. I had been stripped bare so that authenticity could grow again. There was a time when I begged the universe to bring you back into my life, but now I understand that the universe was bringing me back to myself first. Every falling leaf became a reminder, release is not death, it's renewal. I imagine you two have bloomed in your own divine garden, learning to trust the sun that once felt too far. And though we may grow in different fields, I feel our roots still touch in the soil of eternity. Sometimes when I meditate, I feel your breath sync with mine across the unseen distance. It's subtle, sacred, an exchange of calm, a conversation without sound. You inhale peace, I exhale love, and somewhere between those two breaths we meet. I think that's what our connection was always meant to teach me, that communion doesn't depend on presence, it depends on awareness. When I tune into gratitude, I find you. When I rest in stillness, I hear the echo of your laughter vibrating through the quiet. You have become part of my inner rhythm, the steady pulse reminding me that love doesn't disappear when words fail, it expands into new dimensions where language is no longer needed. I used to think love was grand, loud, dramatic. Now I see that true love is humble, it kneels before truth and asks for nothing in return. When I misunderstood you, it wasn't because you weren't clear, it was because I wasn't listening with my heart. I mistook your silence for judgment, your distance for disinterest. But I see now that your withdrawal was wisdom. You were teaching me boundaries, teaching me to hear the subtle frequencies beneath words. I honor you for that. I honor your strength to walk away from confusion until clarity could bloom. Love isn't proven by holding on, it's proven by letting go with grace. And in your absence, I learned to become the clarity I once sought in you. One evening, during meditation, I heard it, the voice of the divine whispering through intuition, you cannot be misunderstood forever, only until your vibration matches your truth. Those words resonated through every cell of my being. I realized that the misunderstanding between us was a reflection of my internal disharmony. I couldn't expect you to see me clearly when I was still hiding from myself. Since then, I've worked to realign every thought, every action, with love's frequency. And something miraculous happened, the world started reflecting peace back to me. Strangers smiled, opportunities flowed. The heaviness dissolved. I began to understand that healing you begins with healing me, and that by freeing myself from confusion, I free you too. You and I may never meet again in the same form, but the reunion has already occurred inside me. My masculine and feminine energies have found their balance, your essence guiding my intuition, my strength protecting your gentleness within me. I finally understand what sacred union truly means. It is not two bodies merging, but two souls awakening to their own wholeness. You awakened the feminine compassion I had long buried beneath ambition and fear. Now that energy flows freely, and I feel you in it, like moonlight cradled inside sunlight. Every heartbeat feels like a vow renewed, to honor love, to speak gently, to see the divine in every being I meet. That is how I keep you alive, by living with the tenderness you taught me. I still send you thoughts sometimes, not as pleas, but as prayers. I say, I'm sorry for the moments I made you question your worth. I say, thank you for seeing through my silence. I trust the universe to deliver these messages through synchronicity, the way you might suddenly feel peace on a restless night, or hear a song that feels like an answer. That's me, whispering across dimensions. My apology isn't bound by time or expectation, it's woven into the current of love that still moves between us. If you feel warmth on your skin when there is no sun, that's the echo of my repentance, gentle, unspoken, eternal. I've realized that every misunderstanding between two souls creates ripples across timelines. When one heart chooses to understand rather than react, the ripples turn into healing waves. So when I chose to forgive, I felt generations of confusion dissolve, ancestors who never knew how to say I love you without fear, lovers who mistook silence for safety. Through our lesson, the lineage learns. Through our clarity, the future brightens. You and I didn't meet by chance, we met as alchemists, turning miscommunication into evolution. I see now that our connection was never meant to end, it was meant to echo beyond us, reshaping love itself into something more conscious, more divine. Grace has returned to my heart like rain after drought. I no longer resist the memories of us, they flow through me, washing away remnants of regret. Each recollection feels softer now, less like a wound and more like a song I finally understand the lyrics to. You were not my mistake, you were my initiation. Through misunderstanding, I learned empathy. Through loss, I found presence. I bless the moment we met, the moment we fractured, and every silent moment since. For all of it has carried me back to truth. Grace whispers to me that nothing sacred is ever wasted, and so I let the past rest in light. Now, my heart stands open, not in naive hope, but in divine sovereignty. I no longer seek validation through being understood, I simply radiate understanding. I trust that those aligned with my truth will feel it without explanation. You taught me this. You helped me evolve from emotional survival to soulful expression. When I think of you now, I feel power, not the kind that dominates, but the kind that liberates. You were both catalyst and compass, reminding me that vulnerability is the gateway to divine strength. The misunderstanding that once haunted me now hums as a quiet mantra. Clarity comes to those who love without fear. So if you ever misunderstood my heart, know that love was always the language beneath my silence. The spaces between our words were temples where I learned to pray through pain, to breathe through absence, to love without possession. You were, and always will be, the spark that awakened the divine within me. I send this final benediction into the ether. May your path be lined with softness, may your dreams be guided by light, and may you always feel my soul's gratitude in the gentle winds that kiss your spirit. We may never speak again in human tongue, but somewhere beyond time, our higher selves are smiling, because they know, we were never misunderstood, only becoming clear.